right. So you've sent in some really interesting stuff about the ways people are playing D&D these days. And I'm already kind of feeling like this is going to be a really great deep dive
Absolutely.
into how people are approaching the game now.
Yeah.
So just to set this up, you've sent in a bunch of different articles and forum posts and stuff. And I think this deep dive is going to really help us understand how D&D is evolving and how people are customizing their experiences.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just, sticking with the old tropes anymore.
Right.
It's really become this broad spectrum of, play styles and approaches.
Yeah, just looking at like the DM situation, it's not even as straightforward as I thought.
Yeah.
Like this one source talks about, the single DM versus multiple DMs.
Yeah.
And just that opens up so many.
It does. It's a huge, just think about it. The idea of a single DM. You've got this single creative force that shapes the entire world.
Yeah.
Right? They're the Tolkien crafting their Middle-earth in control of the entire narrative.
I love that image. Like, this is auteur vision.
Exactly.
And the source talks about how that consistency is comforting for players. You know what to expect. You know who you're bouncing ideas off of, but then it hits you like, bam, the amount of work for the single DM.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder burnout is such a topic.
It's such a common problem, right? Because you're pouring all of your energy into these intricate plots and these NPCs and coming up with storylines.
Right.
And it can be rewarding, but it is draining. And then what happens if you know something happens in your life and the DM has to step back?
Yeah.
The whole game could just stop.
And that's where the multiple DMs gets so interesting.
Yes.
This source makes it sound like almost a writer's room.
Yes.
Like for a TV show. Everyone contributes their strengths and you brainstorm together.
Yeah. And imagine a team of DMs, each with their own specialties.
Yeah.
You could have one who's amazing at world building.
Right.
One who loves crafting combat encounters, and another one who does like really nuanced NPC role play.
And if one DM can't make it, the game keeps going.
Exactly.
This source suggests that actually helps prevent campaigns from fizzling out.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like having a backup quarterback ready to go if someone gets hurt. Plus, the DMs get to be players sometimes, too.
Yes, exactly. Keeps everybody invested.
Right.
But of course, there are challenges with multiple DMs, too.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
This source brought up the problem of continuity.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which wouldn't have with a single DM as much.
Well, I can see that, like, one DM introduces this powerful artifact and the next one forgets about it or changes what it does.
Yeah, or contradicts something from earlier.
Yeah. And that could be really jarring if you're really invested in the consistency of the world.
You'd need a lot of communication and planning among those DMs to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They need to act like co-authors, weaving their threads together.
So, okay, we've got the DM styles.
Okay.
But then this source blew my mind with the campaign versus episodic game distinction. It's like choosing between an epic novel and a collection of short stories.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It's good. So yeah, the campaign is like embarking on this grand journey.
Right.
You've got your overarching plot. You've got recurring villains. You might even have a prophecy to fulfill.
Like Lord of the Rings, or Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Where every session contributes to this larger interconnected story.
It's a tapestry.
This source calls campaigns a great fantasy epic.
Uh-huh.
And I'm starting to see why the idea that your character grows over time and faces challenges that have real weight, consequences, stakes, it's so appealing.
Right.
But then this source also talks about how they can be a huge time commitment and how heartbreaking it is if a DM burns out before the story's over.
Yeah, that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off.
Right? So maybe campaigns attract a certain personality type.
I think so.
Those who crave deep immersion and aren't afraid of commitment.
Yeah, maybe it's even a need for control and predictability.
Okay, so if campaigns are the novels, then episodic games are those bite-sized adventures. You can just pick up and enjoy any time.
Exactly.
And this source makes them sound really flexible,
which
I bet appeals to a lot of players.
Yeah, for people who have limited time or they want a faster pace.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Like an episode of a TV show, beginning, middle, end. Yep.
It's done.
On to the next one.
The source gives the example of Adventurers for Hire.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which I love.
Yeah.
You can just tackle a variety of missions without being tied to a larger story.
You're like a freelance superhero.
Yeah.
Swooping in, solving the problem, and on to the next. But I can see how some players would miss that sense of purpose. that campaigns provide.
Yeah.
Like their actions don't have as much
Well,
weight.
yeah, you need that overarching narrative sometimes to tie it all together.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like a series of short films,
Yeah.
entertaining,
Yeah.
but not as impactful.
Okay, so we've tackled single DM versus multiple DMs campaigns versus episodic games. And now this source throws another wrench in the works: ongoing games versus one-shots.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like now we're talking more about the social side of D&D.
You're right. This is about how we build and maintain gaming groups.
So ongoing games sound like having your own D&D family. You're playing with the same group week after week. You build those inside jokes.
Yeah.
You share those epic moments.
Right.
You really get to know each other's characters. It's all about familiarity
Yeah. Okay.
and belonging.
Yes.
But then this source mentions how ongoing games can become insular.
Oh, yeah.
Like you get so comfortable with your group that you miss out on new ideas.
Yeah.
And play styles.
It can happen. It's like, the old saying, comfort versus growth.
Right.
Familiarity is nice,
Yeah.
but it can lead to stagnation.
Like you always play the same character or stick with the same strategies.
Yeah, because it's what your group expects.
Yeah, and you miss out on all those other possibilities.
Exactly.
Which is where the one-shots come in.
Yes.
This source makes them sound like the Wild West of D&D.
It is. It's exciting.
You're constantly meeting new people, trying new things, conventions, game store events, prime one-shot territory.
It's like stepping through a portal into a new dimension of D&D every time.
You sit down at the table.
Yeah, with people you don't even know.
This source suggests that even established groups could benefit from a one-shot every now and then.
It's like shaking things up.
Yeah.
You get a fresh perspective.
So we've explored the DM landscape, the campaign versus episodic games, and the social dynamics of ongoing versus one-shot.
We covered a lot.
The head is spinning.
Mine too. It's fascinating how all of these choices really shape the entire D&D experience.
Yeah.
Storytelling, character development, the social dynamics of the group.
It's like we've been given this toolbox full of
all the options.
Yeah.
And they all have their own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and there's no right answer.
Nope.
It's about figuring out what works for you and your group.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll unpack these concepts even further and explore the nuances of each game style in more detail.
Welcome back to our deep dive into D&D game styles. We spent part 1 kind of laying out the main categories: single DM versus multiple DMs campaigns versus episodic games, ongoing games versus one-shots.
Right.
Now I think we can really start digging into the nuances of each, using the specifics from these sources to bring them to life.
Okay, I'm GameStar. What really stuck with me from last time was how that one source compared a single DM to a favorite author.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't wait to see what this DM comes up with next. It's all about trusting their vision.
It's a unique relationship, right?
Yeah.
That you build with a single DM campaign.
Uh-huh.
They're the architect. They're the weaver of the narrative. They're the voice of every NPC.
Yeah, this one source said that in the hands of a skilled DM, a campaign can feel like a custom-made novel unfolding week after week.
It really can.
With twists and turns you never see coming.
Exactly.
But then I keep thinking, what if the DM gets tired? What if they burn out?
Right.
This source didn't shy away from that at all.
No, it's a real concern, especially for campaigns that can go on for months or years.
Right.
Think about all the work they're putting in to those storylines, the characters designing every encounter.
Right.
And it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
But it can be so draining.
Yeah, this one source actually uses the phrase dungeon master fatigue.
Yeah.
Which I thought was perfect.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, like they're juggling all these rules and plot points and character motivations, and eventually
something's got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to.
And when that happens, the game suffers. The story loses its momentum. The world feels less vibrant. And the players can lose interest.
Right. And that's where having multiple DMs can be so beneficial.
This source was basically like, why put all that pressure on just one person?
It's a good question.
Spread the workload, right?
Exactly. Especially if you've got a group of passionate DMs who are all, eager to collaborate.
Like different chefs contributing to a meal.
I love that.
So you've got one DM who's the master of intrigue, weaving all these political plots. And another DM who loves creating these really visceral combat encounters. And then another one who's just brilliant at role-playing all those quirky NPCs.
It becomes a truly collaborative experience.
And this source also points out that the DMs get to be players sometimes.
Right, which I think is important. It keeps everybody invested in the world.
It's a win-win.
It is.
But of course, no system is perfect. As much as the source loved the multiple DM idea, they did say there's a potential for continuity issues.
Yes. That is a risk with more people involved.
It's like that game of telephone
Uh-huh.
where the message gets distorted as it's passed from person to person.
Yeah, I imagine one DM introduces this mysterious artifact
Right.
with specific properties, and then the next DM forgets about those details or contradicts them.
That would be so jarring.
It would.
So it seems like communication and organization are even more important with a multi-DM team.
Absolutely. They've got to be on the same page about everything, the world building, the backstories, even the plot points.
This source even suggests using shared documents or online tools to keep everyone informed and on track.
Yeah, like having a showrunner for
Yeah.
a TV series to make sure everything is aligned.
So, okay, we've talked about the DM landscape.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the game structures themselves. We touched on campaigns and episodic games earlier, but this one source gets into like the psychological impact on players.
Oh, yeah. Which I found really interesting.
It's fascinating how our personalities can influence our preferences for different game styles.
This source says that the choice between a campaign and an episodic game often boils down to our needs for control, predictability, and emotional investment.
Yeah, makes sense, right?
Yeah, like maybe people who are drawn to campaigns
Yeah.
crave that sense of order and long-term progression.
Yeah, like watching a seed grow into a mighty tree.
Versus those who prefer episodic games are more comfortable with ambiguity.
Yeah, they're more spontaneous.
And the unexpected.
They like to go with the flow.
It's like those personality tests that ask if you'd rather plan your vacation or just see where the road takes you.
Exactly.
So this source also talks about the emotional roller coaster of campaigns. Like that feeling of satisfaction when you finally overcome some long-standing challenge.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah, it's like finishing a marathon.
Right.
Or reaching the summit of a mountain.
You've been working towards it for so long. But then on the flip side,
Yeah.
this source says there's a real potential for heartbreak
Yeah.
if a campaign ends prematurely.
It's like spending years building a sandcastle.
And then
the tide comes in and washes it all away.
So it seems like communication is key with campaigns, too.
It is. Everyone needs to be on the same page about expectations, time commitments, potential obstacles.
Now let's talk episodic games.
Okay.
This source describes them like bursts of creative energy,
Yeah.
like fireworks.
I like that.
Lighting up the night sky with all these colors and patterns.
It's an excitement.
Yeah, you're embracing the moment, enjoying the ride, and then moving on to the next adventure.
It's like sampling different dishes at a buffet.
Ooh, I love that.
You get a taste of everything.
Yeah. This source also points out that episodic games are perfect for trying out new characters or rule systems or even DMing styles.
It's a low-stakes environment. They can experiment without the pressure of a long-term commitment.
And for DMs, this source was talking about how convenient it is to use published adventures.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to create everything from scratch.
It can save so much time.
Yeah, it's like having a pre-made blueprint.
Exactly.
But this source also says that even episodic games need some level of cohesion.
They do. You can't just have random disconnected events.
Right. It's about finding that balance
Yes.
between flexibility and consistency,
That's a key.
giving players a sense of familiarity without sacrificing that element of surprise.
You want them to be engaged, but you also want them to be surprised.
Okay, so we've explored single DM versus multiple DM. We've dug into campaigns versus episodic games.
We have.
We're covering a lot of ground here.
A lot of ground.
Let's take a break and come back to dissect the social dynamics of ongoing games versus one-shots in part 3.
All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dives into D&D game styles. We've talked about DM styles. We've covered campaigns versus episodic games.
But this last part, ongoing games versus one-shots, this is where we get to the heart of what makes D&D so special.
A human element.
The people, yeah.
Exactly.
This source really dives into like the psychology of gaming groups.
Yeah, how those dynamics influence everything from, how much we enjoy the game to how creative we are.
What really struck me was how they describe ongoing games. It's not just a group of people who play together. It's like this tight-knit unit.
It really is.
Almost a family.
Yeah, you got that shared history, the inside jokes,
Yeah.
maybe even some rivalries or romances.
Right, like between the characters.
Right.
It's fascinating how D&D becomes this like microcosm of social interaction.
It is. It's a reflection of how we interact in the real world.
You're not just playing a game, you're building relationships, you're exploring different parts of your personality, and you're learning to collaborate in this creative space.
You really have to learn to work together.
This source even talks about how the familiarity of an ongoing group can lead to this like unspoken language.
Oh, yeah.
You anticipate each other's moves. You work together seamlessly.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Or like being in a band.
Yes.
And you're all just jamming together.
You just click.
But then this source says that comfort can become a trap.
Oh, yeah.
It's like staying in your cozy little bubble.
You get stuck in a rut.
Yeah, playing the same characters, using the same strategies,
Right.
never pushing yourself, never growing. This source calls it creative stagnation.
Yeah, it's like a garden that's been neglected.
Right, the same plants growing year after year.
And they're not thriving.
So that's where the one-shots come in. They shake things up.
Like a breath of fresh air.
This source makes one-shots sound so exciting.
They are.
It's like stepping into a time machine.
Totally.
And being transported to a different D&D universe.
Every single time.
New people, new characters, new challenges.
It's all about embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
And stepping outside your comfort zone.
This source describes one-shots as a melting pot of ideas and playstyles.
It's the perfect way to learn from other players.
Yeah.
See different DMing styles.
Yeah.
Discover new ways to play the game.
This source even suggests that one-shots are great for shy players.
Oh, yeah.
It's a low-pressure environment.
Right. You can make mistakes.
You can experiment.
Nobody's judging you.
And for experienced players,
Yeah.
one-shots are a chance to break free from their routines.
Try something new.
Yeah.
Be someone else for a night.
A vacation from your regular campaign.
Exactly.
This source also mentions how one-shots are useful for testing out new rule systems
Yeah.
or homebrew campaigns.
It's a safe space to experiment.
It's like a laboratory.
Exactly. You can see what works.
So it's clear there's no one best way to play D&D.
Nope. It's all about what works for you.
And your group.
Your preferences, your goals for the game.
This source says, the beauty of D&D lies in its adaptability.
Yeah.
It can cater to so many different personalities and playstyles.
It's a game that grows with you.
So as you get ready for your next D&D game, think about what really excites you.
Yeah.
What kind of stories do you want to tell?
What kind of character do you want to play?
What kind of world do you want to explore?
The answers to those questions will lead you to the right game style.
And most importantly, have fun.
Yes, D&D is a game.
It's about sharing laughter,
Building friendships.
creating memories that will last a lifetime.
So grab your dice
Unleash your imagination.
and let the adventure begin.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into D&D game styles.
I hope you enjoyed it
We hope you learned a lot
and that you're feeling inspired,
to embark on your next D&D adventure.
whatever that may be.
Until next time, may your rules be ever in your favor.